Welcome back to our studio in Bussum in the Netherlands. And so our next guest is Professor Mikael Klintman, who joins us from Lund in Sweden. He is Professor of Sociology, and he wrote a book with a fascinating title called Knowledge Resistance, and then the subtitle, How We Can Avoid Insights from Others. At Lund University and before at Oxford, Professor Klintman studies the obstacles to knowledge exchange across the human sciences. And so I would like to welcome you, Mikael, to our reality show. Hi, Mikael.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for this nice presentation. Greetings from Lund in southern Sweden.
It's already getting dark, I see.
It is. I mean, soon it's going to be dark all around.
That's the time of the year, right?
Yeah.
Great to see you, Mikael. Let me introduce my first question to you, because you have written a great book. So what's this strange thing, this strange relationship that we have with reality? We seem to take it for granted somehow. So we think that we all perceive reality in the same way and that we are constantly looking for the truth. Now, you've done a lot of research on how people perceive reality, how we make up our minds, how we digest information. So what are the three most important things we need to understand in how people deal with reality?
Okay, thank you. Well, the first thing to understand, I think, is that the human brain is not wired for prioritizing truth-seeking. Instead, we have evolved genetically to deal with information in ways that make us become socially accepted, esteemed, and trusted. Trusted that we are nice people and loyal and so on, in the social groups that we belong to and identify with. And the reason for this is that for 99.7 or something percent of our time as Homo sapiens throughout our long history of a million years or so, that has taken place in hunter-gatherer societies. And in these societies, it was absolutely crucial to be socially accepted in our group, perhaps around, let's say, between 50 and 150 people, in order to survive and reproduce, because there was a huge risk of being attacked by other groups and other things. We needed the protection of our groups. And this means that even getting the facts right is not most important to us emotionally. So getting the fact right and seeking truth in a neutral way in every instance would not have served us well throughout human history or today. We know when our crazy uncle ruins the family reunion by correcting every story that is told, and so it's unbearable. It's not a good thing always to get everything right. So this means that it's inapt, it's inappropriate to call us irrational, I would say, as humans, just because we are bad at optimizing our pension funds or other things, because that has not been most important to us. That's not where our inner goal is. Instead, we're more socially rational. That's what I'm arguing. So sometimes being socially rational, that's to prioritize group bonding over the best knowledge. That involves what I, in my book, call knowledge resistance. And knowledge resistance is to be more or less immune to evidence and arguments associated with certain facts or knowledge claims advanced by other groups. So that's the first thing. We're not wired for prioritizing truth. The second is that whereas getting all the facts right is not our brain's priority, we are very inclined to read between the lines in what is said and what facts are provided or so on. And for instance, we're very susceptible to metaphors, far-fetched analogies, tales, gossip, anecdotes and caricatures and myths and so on.
Yeah, I think we have an example of that you want to share.
Yes, show this nasty picture, please. And this is a picture that is connected to the old fairy tale Peter and the Wolf, and you all know it. I'm not going to repeat it. And we can easily see that this picture is not real. But if we'd use synthetic media, we could easily have created a fake but authentically looking picture. The question is, would this obscure or clarify the truth if we had done that and it looked exactly authentic? I'd argue that it would clarify what's important, namely the underlying social truth, the moral of the story, that giving false alarms is risky and it eliminates trust between people. So that's we have to think in two levels, explicit and implicit here, in where the truth and lies. Yeah. So third message is that playing with information has never been inherently good or bad. It's kind of like electricity. You can use it for awful torture and electric chairs, and you can use it for lightening up kindergarten. So playing can lead us astray towards destructive myths and conspiracy theories, but it can also lead us to help see reality more clearly. And playing and storytelling can help us assess the pros and cons of various scenarios and pathways that our organization is choosing between. And adding synthetic media when we play might make it possible not to just think outside of the box, but also feel and act outside of the box.
So if we want to understand reality, we have to understand knowledge resistance. We have to understand that a better picture doesn't make a story more believable, and then thirdly, we have to understand that the last point that you made. Now we have, as for all the speakers, we also have a panel member that has a question for you. Her name is Zoe Skaman, and she specifically created the next question for you, Mikael.
Yeah, please.
This is a question for Mikael. Now that we have a new toolkit to be able to play around with reality, to be able to imagine new futures, to unlock new forms of creativity, do you think that this is going to increase people's knowledge resistance? Or do you think that there is a scenario in which these new tools and the ability to play around with reality and create new worlds will actually reduce people's knowledge resistance?
Thank you. Yes, I think, as the academic I am,
both,
I think that
right? You think both?
Likely,
yeah,
you're
of
surprised,
course.
are likely to increase, but perhaps not equally much. And I choose to, at least in this, I think I'd put my money on the increasing use of synthetic media for reducing knowledge resistance. And I have a few reasons for believing that. And the first one is that the survival of science and other serious knowledge, types of knowledge provision, is dependent on funding, which necessitates that the public, politicians, and the market care about science. And so stronger scientific stories can enhance that public engagement and will therefore be highly motivating for the serious knowledge providers to kind of catch up with the more bad the providers of false news and so on. And secondly, most governments have an interest in having a healthy, well-educated population, and this presupposes a higher public trust in the honest, self-correcting processes of science and other knowledge forms than in pseudoscience. So that's a huge motivation for governments too. And you can see empirically in scientific communities worldwide, scientific storytelling is really on the rise. It's not anymore that facts speak for themselves. Maybe it is that facts speak for themselves, but people don't really care. And the need to have more emotionally engaging stories in that. Yep.
Going back to this is an experiment that puzzles me, Michael, and I would like to have you answer my questions, talking about science and truth. And this is one done in the 1950s by Solomon Asch. And it's very simple to explain, I guess. So can show people a picture of a couple of lines, and maybe you've already seen that before. And then you were asked, the line on the left resembles which length of the line on the other part. Now, Solomon Asch fooled the people, so there were 7 people in the experiment. All 6 people gave the wrong answer, and then the last person in the room also gave the wrong answer, again and again and again. So what can we learn from that experiment in your view?
Yeah, I think we need to understand this weird outcome where people were ready to change their stance from what was truly correct to what was truly clearly incorrect. We need to understand it by recognizing the social rationality of the people. First of all, there is a greater risk of being socially excluded if you're alone in your assessment of something, even if correct, than if you join a group that is inaccurate in its assumption. Consider the risk of whistleblowers that they take, and others with immense individual integrity, Galilei and so on. Yeah. So, and more generally, we can see that a degree of knowledge resistance and strategic ignorance may actually be useful in an organization. First of all, by bringing in smart people, synthetic or real, to respect everyone in this program, who are completely ignorant about your organization. Bringing in that ignorance may actually help introducing fresh ideas, challenges, and challenge what is taken for granted, and help you ask better questions. And moreover, to ignore some facts, for instance, about some successes of your rival organization, can instead strengthen your bond, that you feel that you belong together, even though it's not completely the truth, but it's group bonding. And thirdly, by blinding the gender, age, ethnicity, and class background of your work applicants, you may avoid the common bias of preferring colleagues who are exactly like yourself, and that would really benefit your organization.
So actually, you're saying knowledge ignorance can be good.
It has that side. Yep, it can be good, and not too much, and not in all circumstances, and it can be hugely problematic on a global scale, but beneficial at the organizational scale sometimes.
Fascinating, fascinating.
Yeah, so as you know, Michael, we also have this, in the reality show, we have a reality quiz. So now it's again time to play the next round of this quiz. And so if everyone would like to pick up their mobile device again and go to menti.com, type in the code if required, we will show you an image, and the question is quite simple. But we will show you first the image. Okay. And so watch the image closely. And okay, let's take away, so we see these colors. And now ask the Mentimeter question. So the question is quite simple. What color is an illusion? And you get, again, 15 seconds to answer the question. So what color that you just saw in the picture is actually not there? It's an illusion.
Created by your own brain, I guess.
I think so, by your senses. So that's it. It was, again, 15 seconds very... Well, this is interesting, right? So actually, the yellow color, as we will show you in just a moment, it doesn't exist. It's something, it's an illusion created by our brain. But if we go back to the statistics, if we go back to the score, what we see is that actually only 32% saw the yellow color. Maybe they've seen the picture before, but 31% said pink is not there, 20% said blue is not there, and 16% that green was not there. So let's look and play back show the slide, and then we can see actually, here's the proof that there is no yellow. Although we try, our brains try to just reconstruct what happened, there is no yellow. So this was the fourth question. So let's see who is now at the leaderboard ahead of the others. So we see that that has changed a little bit. There's one person, me, that didn't want to share their name, but so Mariano Sosa Blatter, he's doing really well. Nicolas B is doing pretty well. And Jeremy, I think that's somebody from France. He's in 3rd place. There's still 3 more questions to come. So
everyone can win.
Good luck.
We also have this panel, as you know, we've seen them before today. And one of the panelists is Andrew Keen. And Andrew has also got a question for you.
Hello, Michael. Andrew Keen here from San Francisco. Back in 2007, it seems an awful long time ago now, I wrote a book called Cult of the Amateur, warning that the radical so-called democratization of media would undermine truth. When anyone becomes an author, a journalist, then everyone is a journalist, and we lose any sense of credibility or intellectual authority. A few years later, I wrote a book called The Internet is Not the Answer, in which I laid out the consequences of the destruction of truth, the decimation of traditional media, the relativization of empirical information. And indeed, since then, more and more people have come around to my position that the destruction of truth is a bad thing, that democratizing technology so that we can all become authors actually has a very dark side. Well, fast forward again to 2021, we have a new threat on the frontier of technology. The threat of synthetic media, which is beautifully laid out in Real Fake, the Seghetti guy's extremely interesting new book on the impact of synthetic media on real fake technology on the world. So my question for you, Michael, is what becomes of truth in a world where anyone can author reality? What becomes of truth when we can all establish our own version of the world online? Is this the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning? I look forward to hearing what you have to say about this, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Yeah, I share your concern, of course, and Nina's and the others as well. But I think, well, there are many parts of this question, but I think that when we worry that truth is a lost cause, we often get stuck a bit in the distinction found in this picture. Would you like to show this picture?
Sure.
It's up, yeah. This with unpleasant truths and what I can't see.
Comforting lies.
Comforting lies, yes. But I think this picture is unfair to truth because we shouldn't think about truth as inherently more or less comfortable than the lies. And it's more that lies are already packaged and marketed in an emotionally engaging way through playing, storytelling, identity-oriented processes and so on. So, but truth can also be packaged in a more engaging way. We should here also note that either more comfort or discomfort can be engaging depending on the case, and synthetic media can really help us get either effect. For instance, to increase the discomfort of truth can sometimes be constructive, because take junk food. Most people know that junk food is really bad for your health. They know the truth here, but billions of us, myself included, eat it half happily. But studies have shown that there is a storyline that actually works far better than the health facts. And that's the moral story of how junk food companies deceive consumers, combat health regulations systematically, and so on. And synthetic media can make such moral angles of junk food more concrete and personalized, and so on. And another, if I have time, another example can show how decreasing the discomfort of truth can also be constructive. So but you can combat climate change denialism by leaving the facts, putting them on the side, and instead discuss and show through synthetic media what are the possible futures if we really take care of the climate problem that you don't believe is real. And you've seen that people who see futures that they appreciate, deniers, they become concerned about climate change and that it's an important thing. So that's also kind of a future scenario that is really can be helpful. So there's hope.
It's a very interesting point. So what you're making clear is that when you have people basically not tuned into the facts or even denying facts, the thing that won't happen at all is to supply them with more facts. What you're basically saying is you have to supply them with a better story, and synthetic media can help in developing that synthetic story. Now, when we had the preparation, Michael, we discussed that in the audience there's basically, it's a group of decision makers, right? They make decisions on a daily basis, and many of them are actually creating systems that actually make this decision making more fact-based or more data-based, data-driven decision making. Now, I know that you have a specific question that you want the audience to discuss in our next roundtable debate. So maybe you can give us a little bit of an introduction along the lines that they should think, and then ask them the question that you want them to discuss.
Okay, yes, I'll do that. So we can conclude that there are many reasons that are legitimate or illegitimate for playing with reality, as we have heard. And individuals in the organization may have a different goal, for instance, to dominate, to fit in, or to adapt, or so on. That is partly at odds with the organization's more data-based, substantive, explicit goals of productivity, competitiveness, and innovation, and so on. But also, the organization as a whole may also need to balance between the goal of maintaining a strong internal loyalty on the one hand, and the explicit goal of doing well externally through productivity and so on, impact and so on. And in order to reach the latter goal, organizations typically want to create a data culture to get more objective and shared views of reality. And these tensions between social goals and more substantive goals, they may even include a degree of resistance to some knowledge and facts, along with seemingly objective dealings with data. So my question to you is, what should your organization do in order to create a stronger data culture, knowing that some knowledge resistance and ruthless even playing with information is an inherent part of all organizations, but at various degrees? Yes.
Interesting question, Michael. We'll go to the round tables in the different at the different locations, and we'll have some answers in about 14 minutes when we're back after the debate has been closed. Okay. See you back.
Welcome back once more to our reality show. I hope that you had an interesting conversation and exchanged some interesting observations or ideas. And I'm very interested to find out where the balance lies between knowledge resistance culture and data culture in your organization. So let's see the results. So what I already saw is that it's basically undecided, right? It's almost in the middle. It tends a little bit more towards the data culture, and maybe that betrayals are engineers and IT backgrounds, possibly. Yeah? We have this positivistic belief in technology, but at the same time, what you see in the shape of the curve behind it is that we see still some significant amount of people that have voted towards the knowledge resistance culture. So let's find out, and Menno again travels to some of the locations to find out what happened in their debates. Menno, where are you?
Yes, I'm back in Bussum again, where Marloes last time was talking.
Yes, so of course we have to revisit the score once more, because Michael, you as a sociologist, you're used to looking at data, right? At these survey data, and so I have two questions for you, or actually three. first, what do you make of this score of the 3.3 out of this this two-dimensional question?
First of all, I'm impressed because as humans, we have a bias towards thinking that we are in data culture or that we are,
Rational beings.
Rational beings and so on. So it shows that you're very thoughtful and reflective organization.
It could be a comfortable lie as well, right?
Yeah. You mean so that it would be okay? They can at another level actually. So and then the other question is whether.
Well, but my second question is well, we of course presented these two cultures on the same axis. But what I understood also from the comments coming from the Netherlands is that maybe it's wrong to think that there are two, that to put it on one axis, maybe you have to manage both cultures at the same time.
Yes, I think so, because we need, they're not mutually exclusive, along a continuum or anything like that, I think. And I think that communicating the key data through socially engaging storytelling that contextualized the data and so on, that might help the data-driven culture and the social cohesion cultures converge somehow. So that.
So what you're saying, Michael, if I understand you correctly, is that when organizations want to establish a data culture, a data-driven decision-making, they should not disregard the inherent knowledge resistance in each and every one in organizations and should basically package this data in better storytelling.
That's exactly so. So the facts are really important, but not enough. They need to be contextualized, packaged, concretized, even dramatized through storytelling of various kinds. And I think synthetic media can help here.
Okay, so before we switch to a next chapter that we want to discuss with you, Michael, there's time for a fifth reality quiz question. So if everybody can take out their phones. And I promise you this is only this irritating sound is only going to play one more because this is the not the last question but the before last question. So what we will do is if you get out your mobile phone and go to the Menti again, you now know the drill. We will play for you a classical music track. And after that, we will ask you a question. So let's first listen to this music. So here, Benno and I are already totally relaxed now, and we love this kind of music. And I don't know how many musicologists are amongst you, but the question is quite simple. So the question is, if we can show it in the Mentimeter, the question is please answer whether you listen to a real Beethoven symphony or to a fake symphony. So let's see the answers. So 22 people actually, or 22% of the people, no, 22 people, I'm confused with the numbers, 22 people. They thought it was a real Beethoven concerto, and 59 people had it wrong. It is a fake concerto, but what is interesting is that it was actually the 10th unfinished symphony of Beethoven that was finished by a collaboration between musicologists and AI. And so that's how they created this symphony. Menno.
Yeah, Michael, we need to talk about conspiracy theories because in your book you address the issue and you already said the better stories are the cure, not better facts are the cure. So before I ask you the question, I would like to show you a little news coverage. a remarkable piece of media, I would say, where we will see a nurse and a doctor that claim that we will get magnetic after a vaccination. So let's first see the media coverage.
Last thing before we go tonight, the train to Crazy Town made an unscheduled whistle stop in Ohio this week. You're about to hear from a doctor and a nurse, medical professionals who have had contact with patients. They happen to be anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theorists. You've no doubt heard the conspiracy theory that they are injecting some sort of electronic tracking device in liquid form through a needle into our arms. But this, at a committee hearing in the Ohio legislature, this was next level.
Is it a combination of the protein, which now we're finding has a metal attached to it? I'm sure you've seen the pictures all over the internet of people who've had these shots and now they're magnetized. They can put a key on their forehead, it sticks. They can put spoons and forks all over them and they can stick, because now we think that there's a metal piece to that. There's been people who've long suspected that there was some sort of an interface, yet to be defined, an interface between what's being injected in these shots and all of the 5G towers.
Yes, vaccines do harm people. By the way, so I just found out something when I was on lunch, and I wanted to show it to you. We were talking about Dr. Tenpenny's testimony about magnetic vaccine crystals. So this is what I found out. So I have a key and a bobby pin here. Explain to me why the key sticks to me. It sticks to my neck, too. I got this. Yeah, so if somebody can explain this, that would be great. Any questions?
So, Benno, I have a question. Explain this to me.
I don't know. I mean,
I had my vaccination and now metal is sticking to me.
it's incredible, Michael.
I had to think when I was listening to this, we don't need this QR code. We just have this simple test, and if the coin sticks to you, clearly you have been vaccinated, right?
So, Michael, you can imagine we have many, many questions. But actually, we make fun of it. But help us out here. We see a medical doctor and a nurse saying these kind of stories. So what can we learn from this? What can we learn from conspiracy theories and how we deal with information and knowledge?
Yeah, I think we could begin by showing a picture, a very old picture about vaccination, if you have that nearby. And that's, I'd like to, I mean, this is, yeah, hilarious and weird and everything, but we should actually be fair to these women, I think, by saying that vaccination is a very counterintuitive practice. We're deeply wired to be very suspicious of possible contamination, particularly by people from another group, whether a nurse or some hospital, we don't know the people, than our own group. And inserting a dangerous enemy substance into a healthy body, that goes against our intuition here. So, and it's also called a shot, which is a metaphor in itself. To be shot. So on top of this inherently weird nature of vaccination, which it is, we have to intellectualize it in order to understand that it's important and necessary. On top of that, vaccination has become politicized and a socially polarizing issue. So again, like the group those who rather join their group instead of neutrally seeking truth. This is the same case here. So if you're of one ideology or identity, you might, because of that, say that, okay, then I'm against or in favor of vaccination and so on.
I understand that the wrong word. We use the word shot, which is a wrong metaphor, I think. But how can we, is it a solution? How can we change maybe the story in a better story for vaccination?
Yeah, good. Because researchers have actually tried to reframe the vaccination story into a more positive, comforting story. And they have had some success with it, with people who don't believe vaccination is good. So maybe you can show a picture of that. Yes, they have presented vaccination as a way of strengthening our intelligence service in our body by inserting a friendly spy, this guy here, into our body. And according to that story, what vaccination does and the spy does is to help the body to identify an enemy. And moreover, the vaccine enhances our resources and hinders the chances of the enemy of having an impact. But as you can see, this is a very lame picture. But again, we could consider what if we did this through synthetic media in a very we could strengthen this story really with a spy entering the body and moving around and so on. So it's a story. It's made up, but the underlying message is really important and true, that vaccination is necessary. So.
And are these insights that you share with us from science in these new kinds of storytelling, are they actually already used by, for instance, the World Health Organization and others?
Not really used. They are tried and in smaller contexts and in single hospitals and so on, but this hasn't become broader. It's a little bit that's science and health. So those institutions, they are worried to package the facts and the truth. They think there will be, like every story is equally valid or something, some relativism. But I think it's necessary that they go that route.
They don't understand the storytelling part.
No, but at the same time, they have to, of course, strengthen and improve the facts all the time. That's what science does. It's self-correcting. So both are needed.
So Michael, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Your theories and your book clearly has been an inspiration for our research, so thanks a lot for that. It's clear that our brains are not wired or not tuned into stories, nor to facts, and that or are much more tuned into stories, than into facts. And so just convincing these conspiracy people or the non-faxers, by giving them more facts, will actually have the average or the counter effect. So we need to come with better stories, and I think that's where synthetic media, where the power is to be found. So again, thanks very much for joining us today, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
So that brings us to our next 15-minute break. But before that, let me tell you about after the break, we will hear from Ronald Voorn, a former CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of Heineken, and he's going to talk to us about how marketing is changing in the age of synthetic media. So see you back in exactly 15 minutes from now.